Welcome to adilas. This is a tutorial on how to create a user maintained balance sheet item. And there's two ways that you can create a new one. If you have the option over here for balance sheet item, you can type in new. You can also go under system reports down to your balance sheet. And I'm going to go that way just to show you. So I'm going to the balance sheet homepage. And right here is create a new user maintained balance sheet item. And I do have a tutorial that covers balance sheets. So these are the user maintained accounts that are accounts that you will set up, such as property or payments on property, retained earnings, things of that nature. So once you click on that, you would select your item grouping. So your item groupings are in here. You might have one that you're going to set up that might be, say, equipment, and then you could put your equipment name in here and your description of that equipment. The date is the date that this comes into play. The item value, I usually leave that as 0, but you can use an item value, and then you use your item starting date, and then if you wish you can have an item starting amount. Just so you know, I usually set both of these dates to be equal to when the item actually came into existence, and then what I do instead of using the item, what I use is I use the running amount, and the running amount allows you to add pieces to this, and I'll show you an example of this, but then you would just add your item. If I go back to the balance sheet homepage, I'm just going to say give values, and I want to show you an example of a balance sheet item. So if I go down below here and say I click on sales tax, here's the main details on the sales tax account. So this is the exact little same form that we were just looking at. There's a link here at the top for the detail line items, or you can click on over on the right hand side, you can click on the detailed line items for your sales tax. So once I click on the detailed line items, it shows me whether I have photos. You can upload up to 100 photos. But you'll see in here is this is where they've been managing the sales tax account. This is where they're adding these new little items, and this is where I was talking about that I select the running amount, because what that does is that totals up what all of these line items are, whether they're up or down. And when you add a new line item to this, your action date goes in here. The action date has to be tied to either your expense receipt main date or your deposit main date if the money's flowing out or in from either the deposits or the expense receipts. You would then bump the value up or down, and so this is how we handle T accounts in accounting. You're allowed either to bump it up or down. You put your amount in, you put your description, and then here's where you would either tie it to a deposit, or typically it's a deposit or an expense receipt, or sometimes if you're first starting out and you're just putting beginning numbers in, you don't even have a tie, and then you would hit add sub. Once you add the sub to it, you would see it appear down here, and whatever date, it would be sorted by date, so it would appear with whatever date that you have. And if you tied it, like this one is tied to an expense receipt, it takes you back to that expense receipt, and you'll notice on this expense receipt, if it shows balance sheet, then it has to have that tie-in to the balance sheet. So that's how the user maintained balance sheet items work, is if you set up an account, anytime you spend money, you would simply select, as this one here has been selected, this balance sheet item, and then you would go to the balance sheet on that account and either raise or lower that account by that much money. So once again, this has been a tutorial on how to create a new balance sheet item, and if I know if I want to add a new one, I can add a new one by going here. In the future, if I happen to know what an account number is, like I could punch in number 2, it'll take me to that capital account. This one happens to be a capital account, or the sales tax account. I can also come under system reports down here to the balance sheet, and right at the top of the balance sheet is create a new user maintain balance sheet item, and that'll take me to adding the items. You also have groupings up here at the top that's a little deeper, and I will have a tutorial on how to add different groupings, but basically that is the same as widening out the range of groupings that's available in the default. So once again, that concludes how to add a balance sheet item, a user maintained balance sheet item, and thank you for choosing adilas.